Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks like we might actually have a series on our hands after all. 100 Thieves next finally stepping up to the plate, and hopefully for me and Veteran, we might be able to come out on top with that 3-2 prediction. They've still got a couple more games ahead of them if they want to be able to bring it back, but, looking at the draft, first of all, there were a couple more things that maybe on paper were still slightly harder to execute, but at least we were happier with in terms of performance here, Veteran.
Yeah, I mean, they were very good at tethering their range this game, but if you don't do that, then the composition will fall apart, right? But if you are doing that, there aren't really any tools on the side of ANEW to actually get onto this Caitlyn specifically. Actually, like watching this game and thinking about it on reflection, looking at the buffs, obviously I've hyper-focused on the move speed buff of Caitlyn as being a big part of her, but the addition of the AD does actually allow her to spike a lot earlier than she really should. She's actually much more of a 2-item spiker now. Now she isn't like the nipples on the man kind of champion that she was at that spike beforehand. She's actually pretty useful pretty early on, and we already know that the initial AD change gives her the ability to one-shot the wave with purely BF sword, but now on 2 items she's actually a massive threat, so that synchronizes very well when we're looking at soul contests for Drake. They were able to rush Drake, though not necessarily that efficiently. When I'm looking at the map at 9 minutes and seeing Caitlyn has no plates and Olaf has no Drakes yet, I am sweating a little bit, but when they started getting their advantages, the range disadvantage on the side of ANEW was very, very apparent. You either need very long range to be able to punish this Caitlyn, which they only really had with the Zoe, which is a bit vulnerable to Caitlyn traps anyway, or otherwise you had Silas, you had Volibear. These things are going to get easily kited. You need like Nocturne, you need Pantheon, you need heavy engage like this, which we know ANEW can actually run. They've run these kinds of compositions before. Pantheon on multiple players on their Winter, if you count them as 1 and 5 fire, for example. So we know that they do have the ability to enter comps that are good into this kind of Caitlyn composition, so we need to see some more of them, rather than just relying on the enemy team not being able to execute it. Look, they give themselves a hard time trying to execute stuff like this, but they've succeeded at least once now. Do you really want to risk giving them a potential match point? Probably not. So maybe we want to see those kinds of responses if they go for a Caitlyn draft again. They are in their arsenal.
Yeah, and I like the fact how you brought up they did try the Caitlyn, but I think the thing that really also benefited them this time around was they had better tools around the Caitlyn, but also they kind of caveman this one, right? Like they were behind. If you have Olaf, like you want to take that dragon really early at the 5-minute mark, they needed to really get a fight or two started to get things going. And it was really on Fallen Bandit who got the party started, right? On that Karma, roaming down, taking that first major dragon fight. It was a very different look for him, but once they got that lead, it was really on the back of the team and the tools around Yon. I mean, they'd made it really easy for Yon. Copy absolutely smurfed that last fight on Syndra, landing, I think, a 4-man stun to protect Yon while he was stunned up. I mean, they had some really good tools around this Caitlyn, and I'm kind of worried because with this team comp, like you want to get those dragons stacking as soon as possible with the Olaf, and they didn't quite do that, but they ended up kind of finding it. I mean, I don't know if they just needed like the O2 power spike, the 100 Thieves specified special, or if they needed, just to win one fight and get some confidence going. But once they got rolling this game, they kind of bulldozed the side of ANEW.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we saw those aggressive, engaged tendencies that we usually see from Fallen Bandit as well, even bleeding through on the Karma gameplay. And even though this is I said it before, this is kind of another one of those limit test drafts where it's really difficult to get off the ground, and Veteran was saying it as well, but they've won with it now. They've gotten their limit test draft win in for the books. Maybe they go back to standard after this. Maybe we see something that we're more expecting 400 Thieves, but I say that, and they did still win this game, so there's a little bit of merit just playing the exact same style again. But like you guys are saying, don't fully expect ANEW to just kind of cave in and let this happen to them 2 games in a row. They are still at match point. They are still fighting for first place in the grand finals, and it's their revenge arc as well. They can't be second place every single time. They just will not accept it, as we're seeing in the first 2 games. Hopefully they come back fierce again in game 4.
Right, and ANEW Esports was at the beginning very, very successful with that early game, but then towards that mid game, that's where 100 Thieves started spiking back into the game, Veteran.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. I don't normally. Yeah, this was actually a really insane move from Kobe. I mean, he's in
Yeah.
their heads for the rest of the series from this, and that's what I'm really interested in, actually, is the mental aspect of what this victory means. Like, it took me a long time to finally win a Game 5 in a best of 5. It took a long time because every time, even when we were stomping in the Game 5, it always felt like we weren't actually winning. And if you are ANEW and you've been in this exact situation before, and you don't just lose, you lose to a composition that the enemy team wasn't able to execute beforehand, and you get smashed against it, that could do a number on you. Will they go into the next game, even if they think that they have a lead, which they did have at a point in this game as well? Does it actually feel like a lead at that point? Will you still be as decisive as you should be, or will there be that mental block that makes you a little bit less decisive, a little bit more off your timing, and then Copy just dizzies you and hypnotizes you with his movement again, and you're just out of the game once more? Do they get a free Game 5 off of a mental edge that they can get here? These things are very real when it comes to very clutch games. A lot is on the line for ANEW to prove themselves as a team that can beat 100 Thieves, that should beat 100 Thieves, that is the better team than 100 Thieves, and a lot is on 100 Thieves to get the Grand Slam, but they probably do come into this series with a lot less pressure than most. You win 3 out of 4 anyway, and you probably come in more confident than most, and they're probably very confident now because they've been here before and they've won, and then you have never won from this position before. So I'm interested to see how that ends up playing out.
Yeah, it's winding down on
this play from Copy though. Look at this.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
That's a growth
I mean,
stun. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the other things too is that this is the first game in a series where NXI actually feels enabled to play the game and actually have his way of being able to aggress onto ANEW with not only just impunity but also support from the rest of the team. I think the Karma, even though at the beginning of the series we kind of questioned where it was into the draft, I think it probably fits best for Fallen Bandit, or maybe in the bottom lane with Auto if they want to do it again in the next coming draft or 2 drafts for the side of 100 Thieves. But, this is where NXI, in that against ANEW's composition, he can just run through the entire team. He was able to not only get a Black Cleaver very early on, being able to accrue a couple kills from that dive onto the bottom side of the map, even after not getting Yon ahead on that Caitlyn, which is what they wanted to do in the first place anyway. But then the focus of the game then shifts to NXI and Copy. It's like, all right, you know what? Yon, you are going to be this reliable backline threat. But right now, the real dangers is from this Olaf and Syndra, who are just basically dominating the rest of the fights here.
Right. And that shift in the middle of the game is something that I was really impressed with this team. And you have to be able to do that in these situations. When you look at a game like that, you're down 0-2, you're at match point, you're losing with your Caitlyn win condition. You have to make those changes when it comes to situations like that. And I really have to commend 100 Thieves for stepping it up right there. Copy stepping up on this Syndra, saying, hey, I gotta activate my scripts. I gotta start dodging every single thing that 5-Star is throwing at me. And he did it. He stepped it up in the best possible way. He picked up their team that win. They're still at match point in this series, but this is where it all starts for that reverse sweep. We've seen it a couple of times, a few times maybe, even for 100 Thieves. This is the beginning of it happening again, maybe.
It is potentially the beginning of that reverse sweep happening, because Game 4 is just about to be started here, at least with the draft phase. So TJ, Ibris, and Niberia are ready to see what happens next.
The hashtag Sweater Squad is back, Matt, and we are ready for a Game 5. Both semi-finals went all the way, and now 100 Thieves have shown signs of life. Are you with me, Ibris? Are we going all the way to Game 5?
Yeah, I am definitely here, and I think this was either a rude awakening for ANEW or maybe the start of a beautiful comeback. Look at that non-committal answer. Look at me again dancing around your question, and look at 100 Thieves potentially making
if there's
a
one thing
comeback here.
analysts hate, it's having to put their money where their mouth is. So I completely understand. Matt, you have never had an analytical thought in your mind. Game 5, woo!
Woo!
Beautiful. Bang on. And that's what we bring to the broadcast. Now, Ibris, tell us what 100 Thieves would have to keep doing in order to keep running this back?
Honestly, I think just again, draft a multifaceted draft. Don't come in one-dimensional. Don't kind of bank on difficult to execute compositions. Instead, just know that you outclass them in almost every position, and go for a fight. Go for a team fight centric comp. Go for an easy execution with an emphasis on the early to mid game. Something you can take firm control of the game with, and then just run away with it.
Welcome to our draft. Game 4 on the line. 100 Thieves looking for a second draft that could keep things going. ANEW, maybe a return to form, something more aggressive again for Mike Young. That's what I'm really scared about. We saw him suffer on the Volibear. If he gets put back to Trundle duty again, I will be so upset.
I don't think you'll be the only one upset. I think every single ANEW fan will be upset because it is not his style of jungler, and that has been never made
I mean, neither was
apparent in
Volibear,
last
if
night's
anything
games.
is to be taken from last game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His Volibear is pretty clean. We've seen him do quite a bit on it. Last game was just not his best performance, and I think that goes for ANEW as a whole. I think the major criticism I draw of their in-game performance was that 100 Thieves was dragging them around by the nose, and ANEW were just kind of fine with that. They're just like, oh yeah, you guys want to fight? Sure. Does 4 minutes in the game work for you? Okay, cool. Let's pencil that in. You also want to fight at 6 minutes and 30? Okay, we can do that too. Fantastic. Anything else?
I have to say, Matt, we're scheduled for the team fight at 30 minutes. We're gonna have to end the game before then. Is that all right?
You know, I think that's fine. I think we can accept those terms, but I think next game, you should ban out Set and Rumble, and then probably don't let us do that again for your sake.
Ezreal gets through for the first time this entire series, and I do think it's just a blind lock-in for ANEW. You cannot give it to Yun. You need to take it here, and I think that's fine. You give away maybe one priority jungler, something like the Kindred, perhaps, and as well as that, pick of the litter when it comes to supports. For example, Thresh, who has also been a consistent ban this series. But I think Ezreal needs to be taken right now.
There it is, locked in exactly as you say, Ibra's first pick for ANEW Esports. 100 Thieves now have 2 to respond.
Thresh is going to be one, whether it's Kalista or something else in the other, or a safe blind pick top. Who knows? Okay, that's fine. That's not Kalista, but I think you go Caitlyn Thresh, Caitlyn Morg. Beautiful answer to the Ez. But again, Ezreal just really safe right now. Can't really punish him in lane. May as well go for the scaling again, as heartbreaking as it may be.
This is giving me some pretty firm deja vu, Matt, because we had a conversation on air immediately post-patch about Caitlyn buffs. And I have to say, you know, they didn't work in that specific instance, but we have been sleeping on them. This has been a terrifying Caitlyn this entire series.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if I'm Jan, I know they're very professional players, but as soon as they lock that in, I'd just be like, yippee! Another Caitlyn game, hooray! Oh, no.
Yep. That was the gasp from me. The Mike
He's
Young
in jail!
Trundle.
They've locked him up
honestly,
as penance for his crime of not being able to pull out a win on Volibear. Mike Young is on to the Trundle.
Take Orianna here, and I'm fine with that. Honestly, if you're 100 Thieves next, I am fine with giving GP away if we take a good mid laner and then ban 2 out. Otherwise, okay, sure, we secure support, ban Thresh. Morg is fine into Thresh if you really want, but nah. And I think that, yeah, we're looking at, honestly, I don't like the Volibear all that much anymore. I was kind of sad we didn't see him in game 1, and then we saw him in game 3, and I was like, okay, I've had enough of this now.
I'm over Volibear.
God, yeah, absolutely, just take him away.
I have to say, ANEW, this entire draft, my approval of this entire draft entirely hinges on what they put in mid lane. Like, that is all I am waiting for, because whether or not Firefire can take over the game early decides whether or not GP and Ezreal are in any way relevant.
So, one of my concerns going into this draft, as well as the Mike Young doing Trundle thing, is how do you make this team work within their style when you have Mike Young on that Trundle? Because it's not just a him problem, right? A lot of the times when people say, "Oh God, it's X player on Y pick," they're like, "Oh, it's just because X player sucks." NA Jace Lamau. No, that's not actually why it's a problem. The problem is the teams don't know how to play around it. I have not seen evidence from ANEW that they can play around Mike Young strongly on this Trundle. So I'm wondering what they can find that gives them a little bit more early game aggression, early game go-to power, because that's what Mike Young's jungle picks usually bring in that Volibear, in that set. He goes in, he gets the engages, he brings you the kills, quite literally when he's on set. And you no longer have that from him. All he can do is kind of just like, bonk, pillar. Someone come get this. Someone help me. And that's not what this team excels at.
And that's why it entirely depends on what comes down from Fire. Because if somebody is going to help him during the early game, I believe, but it's not going to be the Ezreal Libras.
Right, conversely, I do want to touch on the fact that Trundle being that kind of more supportive jungler does kind of bridge the Ezreal GP into their mid to late game kind of spikes. Yeah, I like Ezreal Yumi, it's beautiful Siege, but there is a champ that you like to see, especially with the globals of the Ez plus GP. It's gonna be action all over the place.
I don't
Hit
need
it,
those
TJ.
notes anymore. I'm all in. This is a sick draft from ANEW. It has completed my happiness. You have the early game pressure, TF all across the map. You have the globals, and guess what? 100 Thieves are bringing it right back. They're aware that that late game is terrifying, and that is why we have a Karthus, we have a Kindred right into the mix. Matt, I could not ask for a better game 4 draft.
Yeah, okay, Karthus mid, everybody. Hold up. Let's take a trip down memory lane. When was this last meta? Season 6? Something like that? Karthus has been an exclusively jungle pick for a long time.
He's been bot lane-ish for quite some time as well, like recently as well. But
I think that just furthers my argument, so thank you for that data
just not
point,
mid lane.
Empress.
Yeah, true.
How do you feel about this? Because this was the move speed nerf came out to Karthus specifically to hit jungle, but that hurts mid as well. You no longer have that ability to move around the lane as much, dodge those skill shots.
Yeah, he got a couple of compensation level buffs as well, though, and you do have to think about the fact that TF, especially if he goes AP, not really a champion for the first 11 levels of the game. You have time to scale up, you have time to ramp up, all in someone with exhaust at level 1, level 2, just go crazy on that. And genuinely, I'm thrilled to see it, because you force them to fight you inside your AoE defile, inside the Kindred ult. It's really nice. Global to answer the globals, all of that good stuff. What I'm more concerned with is willingly playing TF into a team that has Morgana, because suddenly you can't gank bot reliably. Volibear also has the jump on his R that makes him invulnerable, or rather unstoppable for the duration of that. And the actual execution of the ganks is just a little bit rough for Fire, but you're picking it for the split push, picking it for the 1-3-1, and picking it to make life hell come the later stages of the game.
I'm with you, Everest. I really am, but I'm choking over my words because of how excited I am if this game goes long. If ANEW Esports get into the late game, they just have the single most cracked draft I have ever seen. That Yumi's terrifying, that makes the Trundle suddenly terrifying. You've got the added power of the GP from the top lane. You've got the Ezreal coming online. I love it. And the last time we saw ANEW take wins against 100 Thieves, it was with a draft like this. Remember, during the Upsurge series, game 2, they draft late game, and 100 Thieves, for whatever reason, opt into a late game. And we get there, and surprise, surprise, the late game draft wins. So I think this is a really fun litmus test for which 100 Thieves we're getting today. If we're getting Upsurge Pro League champion 100 Thieves, they will be able to hopefully identify it's a late game draft, put a lot of aggression out early, make sure we don't get to that point with those characters online. If we're getting the 100 Thieves that have gotten us to this point in this series, we may be closing out the series here.
So you mentioned ANEW's early game draft, TJ, and you were like, yeah, they get to the mid game, they're pretty good. Well, the problem for me, I think, is them getting there. Sure, you have a Trundle, but I think in a word, their early game is balls. You have Ezreal Yumi into Caitlyn Morgana. you are not going to have any priority in that lane. You're going to get shoved under your tower. The Yumi's going to have a terrible time trying to keep the Ezreal up. And we've seen what happens to Shoryu when he's shoved under tower by this Caitlyn from Yawnt. Just absolutely decimated. So I'm worried across the map that their early game is not going to be sufficient to get them strong enough in the mid game that they don't fall off in the late.
I want to also throw something your way, Ebros, because the one kind of X factor that I'm unsure about is that mid lane Karthus. How does that play into the draft timing for 100 Thieves?
So the thing about 100 Thieves with this Karthus does mean that you have a fairly formidable fight around the 20-minute mark, especially if Kindred can get a couple of marks under her belt. I am really eager to see how they execute on some of these more creative bot lane dives, because the remedy to Ezreal Yumi is just dive them time and time again. And that's why I think TF was genius, because TF, threat of a global ult to try and answer that, it's not so much about him being proactive as just dissuading the enemies from diving his bot lane for threat of having the Destiny come down and suddenly turn around to fight. That's why Karthus is really beautiful, because suddenly you don't have to be afraid of the Destiny, because you now have this orbital laser on your side to boot. And it does open up the 100 Thieves comp towards making more creative bot lane dives in tandem with the globals that they do have, while you have to look over at ANEW at using the Destiny and the Cannon Barrage as just dissuasion from having their bot lane get their stuff shoved in time and time again.
So this is really exciting to me because both sides have a little bit of that experimentation we love from amateur. 100 Thieves bringing the pain with a Karthus mid and a Kate in the bot lane, neither of which are completely unforeseen, but both of which are exciting and new. Things get wild here in the draft for Game 4, with Challengers Uprising itself on the line. $15,000. We're headed into Game 4 between ANEW and 100 Thieves in our grand final.
And I am looking forward to seeing if ANEW can finally execute on a Mike Young Trundle draft. They have the tools, once they get into that mid game, to be very terrifying. You have the TF who's able to split push, later stages that gets stronger. But more importantly, that Ezreal Yumi, your carry combo in the bottom lane, you get to mid lane with that. It is a poking and killing machine. And it will be so hard for 100 Thieves to stop it. But in order to get there, you have to get a lead coming into the mid game. Otherwise, that late game is terrifying from 100 Thieves as well.
Yep, and the end of the game
God.
maybe too.
Fire already down to no HP, has to limp back behind his turret, and even there, Ibris, he is barely safe. Welcome to Game 4. I hope you put on your seatbelts.
Not over yet.
Uh-oh, they're going for the engage still. Will be fine for the Yumi, but the red buff's been started up. They're still sticking with this one. Copy gets gold carded. The flash in from Mike Young as well, but Mike Young goes down. Yumi safe still on the back of Shoryu, but NXI is not giving up on this blue buff. They have the priority. They have the man advantage now. They should just be able to steal away the red.
Yeah, tremendous commitment onto Copy there from the side of ANEW, and yet it gets turned around immediately. Flash forward from Mike Young. The Trundle curse comes true, and we're already off to a rough start for the all-star aggressive carry jungler of ANEW Esports, who is now down one very crucial red buff.
And the kill to
And
the
this
Karthus,
is
which always
what
makes me
we
so
saw be
nervous.
successful last game, the level 1 from NXI. Well, okay, not super successful, but they did win off the back of it eventually. They tried it last game and they said, hey, that felt good. I just feel like we didn't get to capitalize on the CC we got, didn't get to capitalize on that level 1. This time, they nailed it.
I am absolutely adoring this. 100 Thieves changing up the pace from a Game 1, a Game 2, a Game 3, where they got bullied out of the jungle. They say, it's our turn on the slide! And there it is, now down bottom. A second kill in the early game to 100 Thieves off the back of their unrelenting aggression.
Yeah, you hit the binding, you place the trap under, and the Yumi can't jump. Huge misplay by Winter there to even be caught in that. And honestly, 100, pleasantly surprising given the fact we look at Kindred, Karthus, Caitlyn, and say, cool, scale, late game, all good. Instead, 2 kills in 3 minutes, and suddenly this game wide open in favor of 100 Thieves next.
On a Caitlyn, no less. This early lead is so devastating. We may be able to get a little bit of poke down here onto Jan, but it's not going to be enough.
NXI?
Pressure coming to mid. NXI will be challenged by Mike Young, and NXI is forced to flash. Watch that stun. 5 fire into copy. No HP on the mid laner. A beautiful pillar, but it's a trade, a kill for a kill, as NXI cleans up Mike Young in exchange.
Yeah, have to be a little bit careful about that Death Defied every time the Karthus dies. Can just TP back into mid. Perma push from this mid lane Karthus of copy now from here on out. And suddenly the aggressive rotation from 5 fire become less and less of a possibility.
The more I think about this
NXI.
mid lane 2v2, the more I love it from 100 Thieves. They play around mid lane a lot for ANEW. If you're able to turn every death of your mid laner into another kill on the jungler, that's fantastic.
NXI challenging Mike Young again. The jungle battle intensifies down bottom here. Shoryu and Winter are both here in lane to contest. They're both low on mana though. Yon, in comparison, low on HP, plenty of mana, will back away as a result. Turret plate in his pocket.
Yeah, Trundle just shadowing his lanes, pretty much acting as the human, or rather troll, gank deterrent, essentially just there to say, hey, we've got an extra body here, just don't come anywhere near. Cool, he pulls off good counter ganks, but Mike Young has never been the one to play reactionary, always was the facilitator, and therefore I'm pretty eager to see how ANEW now answer back now that they are significantly behind in this early game.
So remember when I said, hey, ANEW's early game kind of sucks compared to 100 Thieves'? Well, I didn't expect it to be this comparatively suffering, to put it lightly. Now you have 2 turret plates down in the bottom lane. Jan has a kill and an assist, and BF sword at 5 minutes.
There is no way to frame this as a successful ANEW early game, but they're trying to get something back. Gold card in, Copy in trouble, Trundle pillared as well. Copy's going to go down here, and it is just a matter of whether or not there can be any punish. And even as the roam comes up, there was auto inside the river. It will not happen. 100 Thieves are controlling this first Drake for now, but it's just river control.
Yeah, Copy actually dinged 6 off of that wave, but unfortunately no one's health bar is low enough for him to actually follow up on it. Look at the way ANEW are playing this now. It's really looking like they're on the back foot, honestly. And yes, I'm happy to see Mike Young be proactive. Yes, I'm happy to see them actually knock down Copy here. But what else can you do now that you've killed the Karthus? Honestly, not a whole lot.
No. I mean, even if you get the kill, if it's in a 2v2 situation, that Karthus can suddenly contribute to picking off Mike Young, because what's he going to do? Flash away? Maybe. But once he's stuck there, he kind of just dies at the Karthus if there's anyone else there to keep him in the spot.
5 fire already down about 3 waves worth of creeps here, and that does go to show that Copy in full control of this mid lane power matchup.
The kill did stall up this exact Drake fight. It didn't take a moment for 100 Thieves to feel comfortable taking it. But they wait until Copy comes back. They take their time. First Cloud Drake of the game. Scooped up, stolen away by the Thieves.
How do they stop this doomed early game, Bruce?
Honestly,
that.
you stem the bleeding, cut your losses, and do not let your bot lane get dove like this.
Ooh. 5 fire in! Oh, it's a great TP cannon barrage as well. Leon and Auto are both in trouble. The Trundle's there. Mike Young is yet again here to change the game. He's got to pick up to Auto, and ANEW have brought back a kill lead as Rodolph even wins out the trades versus Fallen Bandit in the top lane.
And this is what we said we needed to see in draft. As soon as Ezreal Yuumi looks to be dove, as soon as the enemy bot lane apply pressure, just cannon barrage behind them, just destiny behind them, and turn that tower dive into one hell of a skirmish that the 100 Thieves next 3-man gank squad do not want any kind of part of.
I will, first of all, beautiful combination for this kill. I will go to bat for the fact that I think this Yuumi has the potential to just change the way we're looking at. If we get to a point where Winter can leave, pair up with Mike Young, and become a carry threat in and of itself, I think all of a sudden ANEW are back in this game despite all these early game mistakes. And that's why I'm watching Mike Young's career right now with great interest.
So what you're saying is you would go to bat with this little slugger Trundle?
Sure, I
was
would
gonna call
definitely
him
go
out for
to
his
bat.
prequel trilogy reference, but you know what? That'll work
yeah.
as well. A pun works
Alright.
just as well.
Hit me up with a fun fact right now, Niberia. Like Trundle is hitting up this Rift Herald.
Alexander the Great had a horse named Bucephalus, and Vodor is getting beaten like a dead horse.
Oh, I was gonna say very different definitions
not-
of fun between the
I
two
do
of
not
us.
know
but,
how to handle you two.
I like it.
Combining you on a single broadcast was too much for any one man to attempt to moderate. Fire
Trivia
will be playing safe behind the mid lane turret. There is a bot lane shove coming through from 100x, countered by this top lane shove. Fallen Bandit in trouble at the hands of ANEW. He's got more than enough wave clear though. He'll be fine. No turret plates even taken away.
Yeah, what I really like from the side of ANEW, by the way, is the mixed damage portfolio. You have Ezreal dealing basically half and half, Yuumi AP threat, TF AP threat, and then AD from everybody else. Super difficult to itemize against, super difficult to actually withstand come these mid to late game fights, and it's going to be early game from here on out.
Ult has to be spent defensively there from Fallen. Watch this rotate coming in though, man. We've got an
This is
entire
gonna be a
team for
problem for
100x
them.
arriving on team.
Herald,
Herald's been dropped. Copy getting low. Herald will not be able to find a whole lot off this tower. Just gets the 2 plates, but not quite that first brick they were looking for. So they should back off of this as Otto finds a
Ooh.
beautiful binding onto the Yuumi.
Yeah, not every day you see that. This turret will fall. Copy. Oh, flashes the cannon barrage. Shout out to our observer, who I believe that this is still producer Joe on the camera, with us all season long and catching that beautiful little play there.
John just 1v1ing 5Fire under 5Fire's tower.
classic.
Oh my god, does he get this?
Gotta love it.
No, he
As we
doesn't.
said,
Stopwatch.
APTF,
Oh.
not a champ to level 11. Gonna need some time. Yeah, blessing in disguise for the 100 Thieves lineup. Sure, TF kind of stymied their bot lane lead, but it gives Caitlyn a window of opportunity to farm in a lane where she would really love to. Gives Karthus more time to farm. And sure, Fallen Bandit's not having the best time of things, but hey, he's Tank Volibear. Let him do his thing. Let him just sit there while everyone else does the damage. Story
I
of top
think
lane life. Unless you're
we do
Rodov.
need to. We do need to build this story kind of around Yorn's damage right now, because if Yorn manages to keep this train rolling, he's at first item now. If he manages to keep building this Caitlyn, we have not seen what a truly terrifying Caitlyn can do in a close game. Like, we do, as a community, we don't really know that. This would be one of the first examples of that at competitive level or near competitive level play. This is what we call a quick pause in the business. When people are like, we're going to do a quick pause, that's exactly what we mean. But what we need to see is whether or not this Caitlyn can scam through the early game to such a degree that once that Ezreal is online, once that TF mid using the AP can come out to play, she's still enough of a threat to cause trouble.
Yeah, so the thing about the Caitlyn and Ezreal matchup is that Ezreal's 2 items and 3 items are so much better than Kate's as a rule of thumb, pretty much. This is where the Yuumi maybe factors in as that like external steroid, and you're really looking at how the supports interact with their carries as being something here.
TP, 5Fire on the flank. Watch his weird positioning here as he's hunting Yorn. He can't find the kill. Yorn inside the Lapse Respite will stay alive, and there's the kill to 5Fire.
Oh!
Yorn does not go down, and XI will fall. That's a great play from Shoryu to pick up a double kill and turn the fight. Now this is possible. ANEW want to find the turret. They've got Fallen Bandit slowed down to half HP, chunked down as Rodov and co poke in, man.
Shoryu with a beautiful jump into the middle of the fight finds two. They're going to turn this into a dragon, but it doesn't look like 100 Thieves are backing the way. No, they want to get in on this action, but I don't think you want this Fallen Bandit. You don't have any damage to threaten with. Copy, the only damage source around, should be able to be zoned off here by Rodov. 1100 HP on that dragon. Woo! Those parlays are hitting something fierce.
Yeah, level 10, really inopportune moment for the Karthus to fight, of course. Huge cooldown on the Requiem at rank 1, plus not the greatest amount of damage. When he takes over, expect 100 to really turn on the pressure, but until that level 11 spike, look at them to roll over. One item for the K, not too stellar. In Fedge alone, doesn't really feel too amazing. And yeah, as I said, just Ezreal's fighting at this stage of the game, much more impactful than his counterparts. Look at these health bars. That's a barrel plus a TF.
God.
And the cleanup from everyone else. Trundle's a pillar bot already, by the way, as you're quite clearly seeing. But hey, it's life.
I have criticized Shoryu throughout playoffs here because he was supposed to be a standout player for this team, and he has been noticeably absent for ANEW. And finally, I feel like we're actually seeing it. This is the Shoryu I was promised by all the analysts who told me he was one of the best AD carries in Amateur. This is finally a star performance in the making from Shoryu.
That Ezreal
He's
play
got
was
2
cheap.
kills, TJ.
But did you see
those
how
are really
clean
good
they were,
kills.
Everett?
They were both at like 15 HP.
5-star prospect Shoryu.
Alright.
Oh my god. Where's that going? Okay.
Wait,
And
Xayah,
man.
already.
come on. Oh man.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
I'm unclear. I think there was maybe a chance they got NXI, but he had more than enough HP.
Alright, hit it, Matt.
So, I'm a little confused by the mid lane build coming out here from Copy. The old Karthus build that I remember was Roa first, but I suspect the reason you're going for the Ludens first is you don't want to take longer, drawn-out engagements. You just want the earlier
CDR.
power spike and the better
As well.
damage in sustained team fight with Leandri second.
CDR on that massive Requiem CD as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, have to factor that one in. But yeah, good throwback to the Roa Karthus build. Could have gone it against the TF, who's also going Roa, of course, so he would have been able to scale. I think Leandri's was also seen for a little while, and yeah, it will probably be the second item here. Just can't underestimate the amount of damage that does every sheer tick of the Karthus E and Q and all of that good stuff. But yeah, Karthus as a champion scales a lot better with CDR and Magic Pen relative to traditional AP.
This Rift Herald was getting picked up by ANEW. I want to highlight that because it was completely unchallenged by 100X. Instead, they're challenging Rodov down here in the bot lane. He'll be stunned up, but he's got more than enough citrus to get him through that danger.
My deodorant is grapefruit and vetiver, so I also have a lot of citrus going for me, TJ. And
Nice.
Matt,
Thank you
also
for
wanted to
sharing.
know. Yeah.
I did not.
This is...
Mid lane, sir. So upset at you explaining your deodorant that it will leave the entire video game.
Man, sometimes you just gotta deal with it. And now we have level 11 for copy, so I'm expecting 100 Thieves to swiftly deal with whatever is being thrown at them from the side of ANEW. ANEW, they have TF, they have GP, play 1-3-1, do your thing. Ezreal clears waves from a screen away. Trundle floats between the Ezreal and the enemy team. Yuumi does her thing. You know, it's good stuff. Easy to execute, but very easy to mess up as well. So you have to keep your eye on ANEW to not just throw away the game in their side lane focused kind of deal.
I think we can solidly say that right now the situation for ANEW stinks.
Of citrus?
I was just waiting for TJ to get it. Everyone at home, we have cams of each other. And I was just watching his face as he slowly realized what I was referencing. Ugh. It's like
What did
crap.
you reference?
I
Your
worry
deodorant,
about us
'cause you have-
sometimes,
Oh,
Matt.
thank you. Alright.
Let's build our focus here as this Drake comes up. I think it's important to talk about our upcoming team fight, Ebras, because It's kind of a question mark for me. Fire. No such questions, just goes in. Final chapter, Copy's already down to no HP. You see the Lamb's respite blown, and Mike Young may be in trouble as a result. Copy somehow survived in the back of this fight. Finally, he'll fall. Mike Young claims credit for that kill, but I think the Wolves did him in. Here comes the Requiem. Half HP on many of the players over for ANEW, but none of them go down.
Yeah, big victory for ANEW there, largely because they kill the Karthus outside of their team. If he can't die in your team with the Defile ticking from their Death Defied, there is no damage being pumped out of that champ. Yes, the Requiem was nice, but everybody already disengaged, and 100 are unable to cash on the fact there was a huge commitment onto their mid laner, and as a result of that, they lose the Drake, they lose the fight, they may lose mid tier 1 to this Herald. ANEW, back in this game, coming swinging with a Trundle with a club, baseball Trundle. That got weird
really like that
progressively
skin,
fast.
Everett. Is it your favorite?
I do. It was my favorite Trundle skin back in the day. Fun fact for you, actually. Trundle was... Actually, never mind. I sound weird if I tell you that.
No, I want fun facts.
I think... I was a weird teenager, man. I think I unlocked every female character in the game, and then Trundle. That was the order
hottest
of
characters in the
champions
game, I get
that I purchased.
Yeah,
When
you
starting
have to
League
get
of
the second
Legends
field done.
was every female character in the game, and then Trundle.
That makes total
I
sense
don't think
to
you
me,
should be
so-
confessing this on stream, Empress, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, leaving aside the eroticism of Trundle, at least as far as Ibris is concerned, we do have ANEW striking back. 100 Thieves off the back of a powerful early game. Did look poised to take this game, take this series all the way to Game 5. Now they're back in the back seat again.
Yeah, and Caitlyn has hit that mid-game trough as well that we were talking about basically every game we've seen her this series. Once you get the third item, she's back in it, but for now, all she can really do in those fights is poke. You no longer have that raw damage buff from just the headshot that gets you through the early bits of the fights. Your skills aren't doing as much, but once you get a little bit more attack speed or AD, you start to come back into the fight. So this is the time where I want to see Shoryu coming up. Also worth noting, it's the 20-minute mark, and we do not see a transformed Muramana yet. This is a little on the slower side. I like to see it somewhere between 17 and 21. So hopefully that gets transformed soon. If it comes out the same time as the Trinity Force, very happy, Ezreal.
Pillar again, Fallen Bandit, a very sad bear. Does the TP to back him up. That's Copy coming all the way in. And the mere threat is enough that Rodov and Mike Young suddenly want to be anywhere else. We'll have the pillar. Fallen Bandit on the charge though. And look at this entire flank coming in. Fallen Bandit does find the stun. Won't be enough to secure the kill, but here is the rest of the team, and this really ought to be Fallen Bandit 1 HP, Rodov in for the kill, he'll find it, and he'll flash over the wall! I don't believe it! Rodov managing to slip away into the river, he's free and clear, Ebrez!
And 2 tier 2 turrets currently being sieged while all of that was happening. 100x gone, a huge commitment for the top side of ANEW, lose in a 1-for-1, and start losing objectives as a result of it.
This is how we characterize the fight between these two teams. It's the battle of micro versus the battle of macro, and ANEW played that absolutely beautifully going into it. They knew that there was no way in hell, well, until Rodov proved them wrong, that both Rodov and Mike Young get out. So you sacrifice them and you push for objectives. They came out with a win, but now it looks like Baron's under threat.
I just want to shout out the awareness of Rodov to guess based on the positioning there was nobody in that angle. Well, I mean, not so much guess, he could see all 5 members, but the awareness to realize that he had a path out.
No
is
cannon
Baron,
barrage for this.
started by 100 Thieves wildly enough. Oh, true shot through. There's chunking on the entire team. Final chapter. It is disastrous for 100 Thieves. No HP on the Baron, but their entire team's gone. That'll be it. Stolen away by ANEW, taking themselves up in the lead in Game 4.
TP up top, this could be the game. It's a clean ace, it's a push, it's everything going in the way of ANEW. They could be taking this game, this series, right here.
Beautiful macro into beautiful fight.
Challengers
finding their way
Uprising
back
on
into
the
the game.
line. $15,000. And I do not believe it. ANEW Esports managing to shatter a free Baron fight and accelerate all the way through the inhibitor. Respawns are here, man.
They were going to find their way out of that, but that was beautiful macro from them, like we said. And now they're going to find a free Drake off the back of this as well. This puts them on Soul Point. And oh my god, Infernal Soul on Ezreal Yumi. It's the most disgusting combo you can find. Oh my god, the Destiny goes in. He's looking for the 1v1 on Karthus. Fire, what are you doing?
They get the Kindred back, it's not all doom and gloom, but also blue card.
He goes in with the blue card, auto into stasis. This isn't over yet. ANEW did find the kill back over onto NXI, which is arguably better, especially when they double down. Rodolph blows up auto, and despite Fire's best efforts, this trade does go positively for ANEW. They should be able to get Soul Point, as you said.
Okay, one big swing in favor of ANEW that they continue to push in their lead here, and yeah, genuinely just good turnaround. 100, they try to answer, they unsuccessfully answer, and they find themselves quickly on the ropes, despite starting off to a fairly decent start. That being said, Kindred, Karthus, Caitlyn, it's all good late game. Not gonna do you much good if you lose in the mid game.
Was that genuinely a misclick? Like, how does Fire end up there?
He does the thing. He's like, let me assassinate Karthus outside of our team with the blue card.
My only thought is that maybe he thought he had Zonias at that point. I don't know.
Look at this fight time. Absolutely beautiful, Everest. The final chapter just chunking the entire team down. NXI is like hiding at the back of this pit, and nobody is touching that Baron.
Why would you not press Kindred R? Just press Kindred R! Press Karthus R! They're fighting you in a cluster. When you, oh yeah, I guess the overlay like bugged, but ugh. Just kind of tragic, honestly.
Why take it without the Kindred ultimate, though, to your point, Ibriz? Why do you try and go for that super early Baron rush if you don't have the security of the Lamb's Respite allowing NXI to make sure there's no steals?
Amateur teams sometimes don't know what to do on the map when there is no neutral objective. The like 1 meter TF will come through.
Yeah, final chapter as well. This is a shattered team fight. NXI being hunted down, but in the meantime, inside the base, Mike Young and Rodolph just diving in. Mike Young 1v4 right now. Rodolph will finally catch up with him, and that's enough time for Fallen Bandit to get chunked down. ANEW Esports, despite dropping that last game, may be about to dethrone 100 Thieves next. After an entire season of competitive dominance, 100 Thieves next are poised to lose their first series here in the grand final of Challengers Uprising.
They're not going to be able to find it just yet, though. ANEW have been forced to back off because of their low health bars. But 3 minutes is going to be the deciding factor. We have Rodolph sitting at 5-0 first off. Shoryu sitting at 5-0 as well. 3 items. The Infernal Soul is the only thing that 100 Thieves can deny that keep them in the game. If you can stop them from getting the soul, you keep yourself in the game long enough that your late game scaling can come in. But if they get the soul, that is game over for 100 Thieves next.
Yeah, suddenly you're taking a single Ezreal Q for like half of your health. If you weren't already, to be honest. Looking at these builds, yeah, pretty much 3 items across the board for the big carries, even for the supports as well. Just really gross to deal with. This Karthus Morello second item, deal with Yumi healing, fine, I get it, but at the same time, doesn't feel good at all. Still playing catch up at this point, and 100 Thieves just behind right now with ANEW unafraid to aggressively push for the end here. 3 inhibs down, making a case for the siege. Let's go.
Here we go. No Baron needed. A minute on it. But ANEW are just going for the fight. All the risk in the world shouldered, and that's going to be an engage. Already a stun up multiple times onto their back line, but Firefire's just able to kite away, and Fall of Bat is gone. The cannon barrage comes through. Auto is down as well, and right when 100 Thieves look to be at the top of the North American amateur scene, we crown a new champion here at Challengers Uprising. This will be ANEW Esports taking down 100 Thieves next, 3-1 in the grand finals.
The AM Slam was denied today by ANEW Esports, taking down 100 Thieves next in a convincing 3-1 victory. The back of an early game loss was not enough to keep them down in this series, and a beautiful performance brought them to the victory. A hard-fought one, but well-earned.
And let's just bounce straight past that Game 3 blip, that Game 3 FF. And look at this one. This was cool. This start, a little bit up, yeah, a little bit back and forth, and yet they hammer it home convincingly. 2 very clean wins in the first 2 games, and 1 less clean, but still pretty damn spectacular victory to round this one out in favor of ANEW Esports.
Congratulations to the team, assembled out of 2 different players, 2 different stars who had struggled, who had dropped out of academy, and many people, I could see the commentary online talking about Fire, talking about Mike Young, saying, oh, they're washed up, they're never going to be relevant again after their academy turns, and oh my god, did they just make a statement. Taking down 100 Thieves next and looking damn good that entire series. Mike Young is one of the best junglers in NA Amateur and Academy, and I think I can't wait for somebody to give him another shot. Fire is insane and doesn't take up an import slot, by the way.
But I think we've learned that the way to play around Mike Young is to play around Mike Young. The problem I feel on his time on TSM that wasn't present on Phoenix 1 was that nobody was willing to give him the chance to do that early game shot calling. You aren't going to get someone adjusting to a new, fresh amateur, hot off the presses from solo queue. But now that he's had time to develop, now that he's time to prove himself more, I hope he gets that chance.
And Shoryu stepping back up in this final series. Again, we were critiquing him the entire time. He has looked a little shattered towards the latter half of this amateur season. So seeing him just carry that final game, step up into Game 4 and establish himself again as that mechanical bot lane star was cathartic as hell. I'm so happy he's back.
So 2 things. One is, you said play around Mike Young, let him be aggressive. He was Trundle this game, so yeah, okay. He has some depth to his capabilities. I like it. He has multiple dynamics, like we wanted to see from the drafting. And the other thing is, some guy kept atting me in the chat saying if I have time to talk about various anecdotes from my past, I can talk about Rodov. And actually, this GP was massive in both of the games that he got it. Drew a Rumble ban every game, got my respect there. And then, yeah, some big carry performances from the top laner of ANEW.
What a season for Challengers Uprising. We get ANEW for the upset, the final of Amateur, and it is ANEW upsetting 100 Thieves for the first time. We get 100 Thieves losing their first game, by the way. Their first series of the entire Challengers Uprising season was just lost here in the grand final. So we get that. And we also get all these other teams stepping up. Supernova Maraville didn't even make our semifinals because we had so many other teams and players showing their worth here in the NA amateur scene. We do need to wrap things up here. We do have a desk to break things down. Before we go, though, Matt, I believe you do have someone you'd like to highlight as a star predictor.
Yes, I actually have our guest of honor today. Let me grab her real quick.
Okay. Ibraz,
she fell asleep chewing on her celebration bone. This is our prediction queen,
this is
Foxy.
Possibly
the successful 3-1 prediction for ANEW. Well, 3 to question mark, to be fair.
It's
Foxy,
surprisingly
how do you feel
big
about this historic victory?
She is the only good analyst in NA Amateur. I just like to confirm that. Everyone else got their predictions wrong. Kargas has to shave his mustache. I believe Veteran has to dab. We have cleaned up all the prizes here in NA Amateur. Thank you so much for joining us here for Challenges Uprising. We have had an absolutely fantastic time. It is time to head over to the analyst desk for one final time here in Season 1.
Thank you so much, TJ, Ibris, and Iberia, for the wonderful cast for the entire day. And congratulations to ANEW Esports. Unfortunately, my prediction and Veterans' predictions aren't wrong for today. 100 Thieves were not the better team today. And, you know, we there's so many, obviously, more things that we can look at. I think one of the bigger things when we were looking at this game for just from the beginning of the game, Veteran, you were very adamant about how this draft does not do a damn thing against the Ezreal.
Yeah, I mean, well, giving up Ezreal first rotation is always a surefire way to lose in this day and age. But they had no lockdown to deal with it whatsoever, and then they were still going up against a Gangplank on top of it and a Twisted Fate on top of that. A lot of map control, a lot of map pressure, a lot of range to match the Caitlyn range as well, and then the Yuumi somehow got through second ban phase. So this Ezreal was always going to get to a point where he'd basically be a tank assassin at these people, and there was nothing they could really do about that because he could play so at such ranges that they weren't able to abuse. The Karthus, even though it's like a nice pick into TF, I guess, doesn't really do anything here. None of the enemy team actually have to commit to going into him outside of maybe Chandler, and sometimes we did see Mike Young fall for that. But he was the only one that was ever really at risk against this Karthus and that entire team. The draft definitely did not go their way. There were obviously a lot of broken champions on the side of ANEW, but there weren't any answers on the side of 100 Thieves next. So.
Yeah, and ANEW, this is the story of how they've been wanting to draft for a very long time as well. All of these globals on their team, the Twisted Fate, the Gangplank, the Ezreal, and it's just because Fire is just so good at putting on his Harlem Globetrotters jersey, just walking everyone down on the Rift, and that's exactly what we saw in this game as well. Oh, it feels so good when a global composition comes together and finds these plays all across the map. And that's exactly what I love seeing from Fire as well. Shout out to him for just so consistently putting this team on his back. He did so beautifully in this series. And I'm so glad that they did get at least one Ezreal game as well. We were talking about it and how Ezreal got banned the 3 games prior. He got banned all 4 games yesterday. They finally get it. And this is exactly why it was banned away. Shoryu absolutely popping off in these team fights. He's untouchable with Winter as the Yuumi as well. Oh, this was a picture perfect game here for ANEW. Well, at least as picture perfect as you could possibly get in a game like this with as high value of an opponent as 100 next. But man, oh man, did they deserve this victory in the grand finals.
Yeah. And I really like the adaptation actually coming in for this series compared to yesterday for the Gangplank. The Gangplank got all 3 wins for ANEW, and this one rode off playing that pick, able to play weak side, but still do a lot in these team fights, creating that terrain that the barrels can create where, you know, a champion like Karthus, like Veteran said, you cannot get involved, right? You just cannot approach the team fight. ANEW played out that game out really cleanly, and I think they really shined in games 2 and 4. I mean, the way that they had Fire on that pick that can control the map state. They did a great job of snowballing this one through. And it was nice to see one of the 80 carries kind of out of utility jail as well, and Shoryu going off on that Ezreal with the Yuumi too.
Yeah, just honestly, once the Ezreal got through the draft phase, you know, this is where ANEW were able to really play to their strengths and allow Shoryu to truly step up. And as TJ said, you know, for the past 24 to 36 hours, you know, going back to even the Upsurge series last night, you know, Shoryu was not playing well at all. It was, you know, very inconsistent, very uncharacteristic performance from him, and which 100 Thieves and Yan and Otto were able to just so abuse easily, right? But this series, and then finally on this game, Shoryu steps up. You can see him in the plays where he's eing in and flashing in aggressively to pick up any stragglers after the Lance Respite has been popped and finished. But as we want to be able to continue further diving into this last game, we do have Ari Panda, who is standing by with Fire himself, who said he would be ready to conquer this series since he's already conquered all of amateur. Ari Panda, you're on.
Hello, guys, and welcome. We just saw ANEW Esports take down 100 Thieves next in the Challengers Uprising Grand Finals. I'm here with mid laner for ANEW Esports, Fire. Fire, first off, congratulations. Huge victory, a huge 3-1 win for you guys. How are you feeling?
I mean, obviously feels so good, especially after the series
Are
yesterday.
we having technical difficulties? I can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hello.
Okay. I can't hear him. Okay.
Oh, all right. Give it 1 sec. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right, good.
Yeah, congratulations on the huge win. So, how's it feel?
So as maybe the people were hearing, it feels
Yeah,
really
they probably-
good, especially after our series yesterday didn't go our way. We really felt like we just didn't show up in the Upsurge finals, but luckily here in the Cup finals, the ones that really we have been looking at for a long time, we felt like this league was the big one of them all. So we're really happy to be able to clutch together and win it in a pretty solid fashion.
Yeah, for sure. No, you guys had full control game 1 and game 2. Basically across the map, top lane was able to, push with the gangplank and dominate. You were on, Galio rotating around the map, making awesome plays for your teams. Did see a little bit of a slip in game 3. 100 Thieves was able to get their footing back on, but then game 4, you guys brought it back in just such a dominating fashion, and were able to take the victory here in our inaugural season of Challengers Uprising. So last question for you. Basically, so 100 Thieves has not lost an entire series this entire scouting ground circuit, and you guys were finally the ones to take them down. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you do need to maybe check your facts a little bit there, because I do believe we were the ones who sent 100 Thieves next to the losers bracket in Upsurge.
That's correct. That is right.
Well,
in Upsurge.
that was a smashing 2-0. But they were able to come back. They were able to come back and beat us in the grand finals, obviously. But
Yes,
no, I
they were.
mean, I think we've shown that if anybody is going to try to beat 100 Thieves next, it's us, and we're the ones that are capable. And I think we've definitely cemented now that we're the top 2 teams. We've just
Definitely.
been going back and forth in these playoffs, and I honestly can't wait to play against them in the Scouting Ground Circuit playoffs.
For sure. Again, congratulations, guys. That was such a hard-fought victory. Such a great series to watch, too. So that's all I have for you guys. If you guys want to take it away at the analyst desk, we're ready.
Thanks,
for you.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Ari Panda, and thank you, Fire. Once again, congratulations to you and the rest of the new roster squad for an amazing series and a well-deserved win. Huge comeback considering last night's performance over in Upsurge. And, we do have to, we cannot state enough how incredible of a journey it has been, starting from the beginning all the way back in early June when we started with the qualifiers, going from 16 teams down to the group stage, and then moving forward into the playoff bracket. Finally here, it was a long, grueling road. And, we cannot state enough that even though this is a Challengers Uprising broadcast and, we want to focus on the journey here, it would be a shame to not include all the stories that were taken from Upsurge, from Bloody Invitational Gaming, from Risen Champions, from Focus Esports, even the LWL qualifiers. They all matter here because this has become basically a full-time job for every single player and coach and analyst that is working with one of these teams that is competing for a chance to change their future and to move on to the next level. And now, Challengers Uprising being the last Scouting Ground Circuit affiliated tournament, we will now be moving on into the top 8 portion, where Smacks, we're going to be seeing the likes of 100 Thieves next, ANEW Esports, Radiance, Maryville University, Frostfire, Polar Ace, Mirage Esports, and I might be missing one more. I'm trying to count them in my head. I might have
Crossfire, Radiance, those are the ones. One of those.
I mentioned both of those. I think I just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
Anyway, top 8.
Yeah, top 8, Smack.
Yeah,
You know,
top
take
eight.
us.
Either way, we are done over here on the Challengers Uprising stream as far as this season goes, but the journey is not quite over for those 8 teams, or 7 and then one other that Rafa forgot. We are going to be getting into that, I believe, this weekend. And yeah, these 2 teams, the results of this match, of course, didn't quite matter as far as the seeding in that tournament goes. 100 Thieves was already locked in first, and ANEW was already locked in second. And you know that these are the top 2 teams for a reason. We saw their performances across so many different leagues and so many different games, absolutely stomping people. And I cannot wait to see these 2 teams play again on that weekend. But it's gonna feel super nice for 100, or for ANEW rather, getting this last final win. You know, they may have taken the 3 losses before 200, but the denying that Grand Slam has got to feel so good. And it's going to give them some incredible momentum going into that top 8, especially if they win their Nexus Blitz game on the day as well.
Always with Nexus Blitz.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I think Five Fire said it. These guys are the top 2 teams in SGC, and they proved it throughout Cup. They proved it today, and a statement win, a revenge game coming out from them after last night. And congrats to ANEW and all the staff. I mean, this is a huge tournament. They were able to have the last say, and excited to watch this team moving forward in SGC. They're a real team to look out for in that top 8, as all these players trying to make the scouting ground circuit. So look out for ANEW, look out for 100 Thieves next. But congrats to everyone over there at that org. They played really well today. Definitely deserved the win.
Yeah, I guess I want to highlight 100 Thieves Next specifically on this one then, because there were 2 versions of 100 Thieves Next that we saw in this tournament. There was the 100 Thieves Next with Tenacity and Kempi, and the 100 Thieves Next with Fallen Bandit and NXI. And both times 100 Thieves Next has shown that this project from 100 Thieves, from a major LCS organization, is giving room for real mobility for players to move up.
Yeah.
It's not just in Nemoni. It's not just going to be a benchwarming team permanently or anything like this. Kemvi and Tenacity aren't here because they have an opportunity to prove themselves at a higher level now. And who did they bring in? They brought in not a random has-been, but NXI had never gotten an actual chance before in an amateur team like this. And he performed brilliantly. He may have lost today, but this is a guy who came out of nowhere and was immediately competing at the very upper echelon of NA amateur, and proved that there is talent still in North American solo queue that we don't know about. We don't just have to be recycling. So I think the 100 Thieves program has been a huge success. Even with this loss today, the worst thing they can say is that they didn't get the Grand Slam. Like the program's being a success in both results and in terms of proving that there is mobility from solo queue to professional and from amateur to higher levels.
Right. They're still going into the top 8 portion of SGC as the #1 seed because they pretty much stomped and won a majority of the other Scouting Ground circuit tournaments. This is just one. You know, it's unfortunate you don't get them all and you don't get to make that statement and pride, but it still leaves room to grow. And considering that, as Veteran already noted, you know, this is a different 100 Thieves roster. It's not the one that, you know, Kemvi and Tenacity were on. You know, considering that roster was formed at the beginning of the year, let alone a week in advance, to prepare and get both of these guys up to speed and preparing and playing the way that 100 Thieves wanted to play. They still won one of them in Upsurge last night. So it not only this program is a huge success, but this is a huge sign. And I hope other organizations, franchise LCS organizations, are watching this and looking and seeing that the investment is worth it. You have a giant pool of very able, ambitious, and very driven young players who want to turn NA into an actual region that we don't just make memes about for the future. Invest in them. Look at these players and stop going through broken ways and methods of trying to band-aid and make your orgs win in a split. You cannot just fix things and hope that you're going to turn things around in a 6 months or a year. You have to invest for the long run if you want to make serious changes here in the scene.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Frostfire, right? they're the number 8 team. They aren't sponsored, and those guys are playing better than the 8th team too, right? That's actually going to be a really tough first round matchup for 100 Thieves next, moving in
It
SGC,
is.
and they put on a great show here in Cup as well. They were the only team that took a game off them in group stage, and also they took ANEW all the way to 5. But all I have to say in closing is that as we do set up for SGC and wrap up Cup, these two teams, ANEW and 100 Thieves next, are still 10-10. That's their head-to-head record. They were 6-6 going into UPL last night. Both series were 3-1 in opposite directions. I want to see that settled in the finals of SGC. I think everyone else wants to see that too. They're the two best teams on the two opposite sides of the bracket, and I hope that we get a series that really delivers. I feel like this one kind of delivered tonight, but I want to see it go 5. Come on, Dad. Like, I want to see a little bit better performance out of both teams and really show off how good these guys are and what they can offer.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will be doing it us for here on Challengers Uprising. It was a hell of a series and was a hell of a comeback for ANEW Esports as an organization, but this will be our last and final closing words. It has been an incredible journey to be working with every single one member of the Cup staff here. I'm so glad we also got to bring Veteran all the way from across the pond, who it has been a truly pleasure to be able to not just on air, but all the conversations we've gotten to have off air have been really enlightening. And we really appreciate having you here, as well as everyone at home who has been so supportive of the amateur scene. I really think that for once, North America is starting to turn a page in the direction of being able to not be a joke of a scene anymore. It's going to be a long road ahead, but we have already made that first step. Again, everyone, thank you so much. Have a good night.